Support for today's Heat Treat Radio episode is provided by the biggest heat treat trade show this year, Furnaces North America 2022. Reserve your spot at www.furnacesnorthamerica.com. And welcome to Heat Treat Radio. Whether you're listening to us or tuning in via video on heattreattoday.com/radio, we're glad to have you. Today's episode revolves around gun parts. How are they heat treated? How many gun component manufacturers are there in the US? Doug Glenn, publisher of Heat Treat Today and host of this podcast, will be grilling Steve Kowalski on this subject. Along the way, Steve will share his insights into the heat treat industry from the perspective as president of Kowalski Heat Treating, particularly how to cultivate expertise among employees. Let's jump in.
Well, welcome to another episode of Heat Treat Radio. I have the immense pleasure of being able to sit down today with Steve Kowalski of Kowalski Heat Treating. Steve, you know, it's nice to finally sit down with you. We've been talking for quite some time about doing this. So first off, welcome to Heat Treat Radio.
Well, good morning, Glenn. Thank you very much for having me today.
You are very, very welcome. Now we have to start. I told you before we hit the record button, over your left shoulder, there's an interesting ball. You need to tell us about that real quick.
Can you see it?
Yes, we can see it. Yeah.
All right. This, for you viewing folks at home, this is a rubber band ball. For perspective, how's that? Yes. 22 plus years in the making.
Yeah. For those of you who are on the audio only version, it's about the size of a basketball. And Steve was telling us that you guys have been only the stuff that comes in the U.S. mail. You take a rubber band only.
Yep.
So that's very impressive. It has absolutely nothing to do with heat treating. But I did want to say that it's pretty interesting. So anyhow, Steve, we're going to talk a little bit today about the heat treatment of guns, ammo, that type of stuff. So wanted to, that's just to whet the appetite of those who are listening and watching. That's what we're going to be talking about a bit. Your organization does it. But I'd like to have you take a minute just to talk about your background very briefly. I know that's a long background.
Careful.
Yeah, I know. Hey, trust me. You and I graduated from college the same year. So yes. I know. So it has been a long background, but briefly tell the listeners, viewers, about you, about the company, and then we'll jump in with some questions here about firearms.
Oh, wonderful. I'm second generation. My dad started the business back in 1975, so I was underage working. Yes, those of us in the commercial heat treat, a lot of us have grown up in businesses where we were the underage employees. Transition took place about 15 years ago. We started off one building, roughly 3,000 square feet, to process tools and dies. Back in the day, Cleveland was one of the tool and die capitals of the world. We had tons of tool and die makers. Well, that business has evolved away. Since 1975, we've grown the business to, we now have 9 facilities on our campus, roughly 80,000 square feet. And those of you who know Kowalski Heat Treat, we specialize in those PIA jobs. It's what we do. If it's a problem, pretty sure that it's going to be coming to our facility. Started in salt bath. Over the years, we added high pressure quench vacuum processing, plasma nitriding, plasma for nitrocarburizing, deep cryogenics. One of our divisions specializes in nothing but keeping parts flat, round and flat. You can go to our website at khtheat.com and check out the various divisions and what we do. But basically in our world today, we rack or assemble 95 to 97% of everything that comes through the store. Yeah. It's specially handled.
So your PIA, the pain in the ass ones, is what you're talking about, the jobs. Do you guys therefore, I assume, like metallurgists and things of that sort on staff as well?
We have 48 people. We have 8 engineers on staff.
8 engineers. There you go. Okay.
Anything from chemical to mechanical to electrical. We do not have a metallurgist on staff. We have access to great metallurgists in the area.
Cleveland has them.
Oh my gosh, we actually are blessed here in Cleveland. If you need something, one phone call, we can find it.
Yeah, right.
So you're Pittsburgh, aren't you?
Yeah, just north of Pittsburgh, correct?
Yeah.
Don't hold that against me.
No, it's okay. You've done remarkably well.
All things considered. There you go. I appreciate that. That's
Thank
very
you.
gracious of you, Steve.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah. No, that's good. You're right. I mean, Cleveland, I think, especially Ohio in general, but Cleveland in general, kind of like the forging center of the world. That's just, there's a lot that goes on there. But heat treat in between Detroit and Cleveland, really, kind of heat treat central.
Exactly.
Agreed. A lot of stuff going on there. So, all right, good. Well, listen, that's great. You've obviously been very successful. You're good at what you do. I know it's still a family business. You've got you and your sister, at least, right, involved.
2 sisters, yes, correct. 2 sisters involved. One back office, and Peggy Andrews is inside sales, customer service. I think you've met Peggy.
We've met Peggy. We know Peggy. Peggy is wonderful. Yeah. And
for all of you, I'm the quiet one in comparison.
I believe that now. Having met Peggy, I think she's great. She's great. And also, you've been a little bit humble because you were the president of the Heat Treat Society here not too long ago, were you not?
Yes, very correct.
Yeah, which is quite an honor.
And before me was Roger Jones, and after me was Jimmy Oakes. So
okay, there you go. Yeah, very good. Very good. All right, well, listen, let's talk firearms for a second. And it's kind of interesting because when you talk firearms, it's always a little bit controversial. Obviously, there's a political side to this conversation. We don't really want to go down that road too much because we're just going to talk about heat treatment. But I do want to ask you, which could be, slightly bumping up against the political side. Have you seen recently, or in the recent past, any increase in that business that Kowalski is doing as far as firearms go?
Well, our firearms business, I know we'll be talking about the who, what, where, when, why of firearms and how processing is incredibly important. We work with DoD, Department of Defense, on very unique programs. We work across the spectrum in the firearms, from long gun to handguns, and there seems to be a huge misconception in the world on firearms. ATF controls that world from a registration standpoint. Every firearm has a serial number, certain components of it. So it is tracked. And our systems have evolved over the years. We've developed specific systems that are very sophisticated to be able to track the product that we process. The key components that require a serialization or a serial number, we track them. And we do hundreds of thousands of units a year, and they're all tracked so that you and I can go across the political side. We're really very, very proud of the fine work that my team does in the firearms industry. Most of our first responders, law enforcement, defense, they depend on what we do. I can make it very dramatic, but in reality, if we don't do our jobs correctly, they can't do their jobs correctly.
Yeah. And it's somewhat of a life and death thing too. I mean, if you got malfunction because of a defective heat treat or for any reason.
For any reason. It'll ruin your whole day. Yeah. So we've seen our business has definitely grown in the last 7 years. We've built a very good reputation in this industry. If you have a problem, chances are we're going to be working with you to help you solve your problem. Firearms they are extremely highly engineered. With very close tolerances.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's kind of interesting here because you're talking about serialization of parts and things of that sort that come in. You're not getting fully assembled guns. You're getting parts and pieces. And you're able to track. Now, I'm curious, is that tracking? Is that a barcode? Is it, optical? How do you do it?
The answer is yes to all of the above. It depends on the customer. You have a serialization, you have a serial number, or you have a code. In some cases, some of our customers are moving toward QR codes.
Yes.
So if you receive in 10,000 units, whatever they may be, Well, that's 0 to 10,000. And you need to ship 0 to 10,000 back.
Right.
And
right.
if you do not, ATF is notified.
It is, that's interesting. Types of furnaces. Are you guys running batch furnaces or are you running continuous furnaces?
We do batch. So it's
Batch,
all batch.
okay. Yeah.
And the majority of what we process for the gun world, for the firearms world, would be either, well, it's actually salt to salt, rack, Moss tempering or mark punching, vacuum, and actually plasma processing, whether it's FNC or nitrating. So those 3 areas, we're involved with the gun world.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was curious because I know you hear about a lot, especially it's different market, but in the fastener world, you hear fallout. If you're going through a mesh belt furnace, oh, well, you lost a few fasteners down on the bottom of the furnace. That would not work if you.
No.
Gotcha.
I can make light, or we joke a little bit about it. You do not want folks with 3 letters on the back of their coat coming in.
Yeah, exactly. And we'd be, if that happened, probably the next interview we do with you, you'd be wearing an orange suit and you'd have a real,
maybe orange is not my
roommate.
Color. Yeah, and I just don't look good in orange.
You don't look good in orange. Well, we'll keep you with that.
Go down that path.
All right. So now, as far as the firearms industry, I mean, there's a lot of different metals and materials of that sort, but there are 2 basic things. I mean, I always talk about it. We talked about this a little bit before we hit the record button here. There's ammunition, and then there's gun components.
Correct.
You guys do not do ammo, correct?
Correct. That is not a world we're in. We are in the gun side, all of the components for a gun. On any given firearm, you may have, in our particular case, we may be processing 12 to 15 different components for a handgun.
Yeah.
Anything from a barrel to a slide, to a receiver, to a firing pin, ejectors, extractors, triggers, trigger guards, the list. It just, each of those, it tends to be a different material. There's different properties that have been developed that they need a firing pin versus a trigger guard versus a slide.
Right. So just a quick example, if you don't mind. I mean, it's important for the heat treater to know what they're doing, obviously, right? Why is that? I mean, can you give us an example why it is when
we'll use a barrel as a good example. Well, true. If a barrel is not true, straight, no distortion. We all seen the various TV shows where the person swings the gun around and the bullet shoots around the corner.
Not
gonna
happen.
Doesn't happen. So if the barrel isn't true, hasn't been processed appropriately, correctly, it's not going to function the way it was designed. A firing pin, which is a very distortion, it's a distortion sensitive component. If it's bent, it doesn't work. The gun will not fire. And you can go on slides and receivers that if they're distorted, they're not going to work. It's not going to function.
Right.
So each component must be processed to achieve dimensional tolerance control, and then metallurgically the structure. A gun has a very aggressive action. It's just
many explosions, basically.
Literally, and so that's been designed to support all of that.
Right. The different components that I think about. I mean, your firing pin that you were mentioning, right? It's gonna have a lot of impact, right?
Correct.
A lot of impact on the shell casings on the firing pin.
In that particular case, and we're not giving away. I mean, I'm not going to give any IP away, but those are off-tempered for structure. Bayonet. I mean, and for the full disclosure, Doug, are you a metallurgist?
No, I am not actually.
Okay, nor am I. I'm a marketing guy, folks, with experience.
Same here. Yeah.
But the design, if that pin chips, cracks, breaks, doesn't function.
Exactly. So you've got high impact. You got the high impact parts like the firing pin. You got barrels where you want good wear resistance and things of that sort. Obviously, they need to be true and straight. You got springs in a lot of guns, right? I mean, especially your Ruger style that are where the receiver's back. Those things have got to be. heat treated appropriately. Steve, what type of alloys typically are we talking about in some of these different parts?
They range from high carbon materials,
Yeah.
1050, 1060, 1070, up to high temp stainlesses.
Yep.
Whether it's 400 series, whether it's a precipitation hardening series, mid to high alloy materials, 4340, 4150. And then as we get into the specials, the engineering world is continually trying to make a better product, a longer lasting product, a more robust product. So we're starting to see materials that historically weren't used in this area.
Okay.
It's plus things that we don't deal with. There's many components that are carburized using 8620, 9310.
Yeah.
They're carburized and hardened for the same purpose, wear and performance.
Have you seen any, because you're actually being a Cleveland area, you're kind of in another hub, and that's with a lot of this 3D printing, additive manufacturing. I mean, there's a lot that goes on there. I think there's a organization in Youngstown or in that area that's kind of a central hub there. Are you guys seeing any of that, whether it be in firearms or not? Have you had any experience with any of the AM?
The answer is yes.
Okay.
And how's that? How did I do?
Yeah. How much do you want to talk about that?
The answer is yes.
Okay, good enough.
AM is absolutely taking place.
Yeah.
There are some it's incredible. The technology, what you can do today that you couldn't do 2-3 years ago.
Right.
And then you have to effectively engineer backward forward, if that take it and then make it right. And then produce it, thermally process it, maybe.
Right.
So it's one of those.
Yeah. Now it's an interesting and evolving technology. So I'm curious about it. All right. So as a heat treater of gun components, not that you want to, help any competitors or anything of that sort.
But no, we love all of our competitors who are not working against us. How's that?
Yeah, that's fair enough. What is, as a heat treater, what are the things that jump into your mind? There are things you have to be careful about when heat treating gun components. And if it helps, pick a specific component, whether it be a pin, a barrel, whatever. I mean, what do we need to be careful of?
I'm looking up over your head, which is beautiful, by the way, at the sky here in Cleveland, Ohio. Thank you. Yes, right above. The way I'm going to answer this is you are dealing with a component that if we take guns out of it and say medical devices. So we'll use medical devices in lieu of saying guns so that people can appreciate where I'm going with this. You have bad players out there. People who are trying to circumvent the system. With medical devices, you need to have approvals. You need to have FDA, right? So it's very similar in the gun world. You need approvals. You need to make sure that they're making components that comply with whether it's the OEM's specifications or ATF specifications, being serialization, making sure things are marked appropriately. Internally here, we have secured quarantined areas where we do all of this work. And you have your personnel, I have to be approved to be able to process these parts. My background has to be in check. So I literally have to be, this company, my company, approves those people who can touch these components. So they're internally, we have secured bonded areas. And parts are bonded in and they're bonded out. Use the terminology you'd like, anybody that doesn't, but basically you're securing from our floor to when they leave. And it's because it is that important. It's, if we're dealing with the aerospace world or nuclear world, you are going to make sure your systems and processes and procedures are all locked down.
Yeah. So that's a procedural, say an operational uniqueness, let's say, to handling guns. So how about technically, like in the aerospace industry, you've got NADCAP, in automotive, you've got, either in aerospace still AMS, also we're for pyrometry, CQI9, things of that sort. Medical industry, which you mentioned, Steve, it's got Medicred, things of that sort. Okay.
Right.
Any such beast in the firearms? I haven't heard that there is, but
there's not. Basically, we have overlap between our guns, the gun industry as a whole, and the DoD work that we do.
Right.
So they go back and forth.
Gotcha.
What you mentioned here, most of those requirements and procedures are already in place. And
Gotcha.
it makes it easier if you're doing CQI9 relevant work.
Yeah.
You're not going to start and stop. So the equipment is already covered in those areas. Procedures, you build them so you're not building 14 different procedural systems.
Yeah.
Difficult to control.
Yeah. Right. So you've already kind of answered this, but let me just ask it straightforward, just in case there's something else. And if there's nothing else, that's fine. Any particular, for the people in your company, for you guys, generally speaking, is there any specific training or knowledge or experience that you have to be heat treating gun components?
Yes. And those are, one, experience is an incredible teacher. And oftentimes for Kowalski heat treat, I can't speak for other for competitors, because I'll speak for us. Normally, if a product hits our floor, hits our dock, hits my inbox, historically, somebody has had a problem with processing that component. Whether it's distortion, whether it is metallurgically, the properties they're achieving, whether it's actually out in the field, you're a good, you're my beta, you're my test. You're going to call and say, hey, Steve, I got this thing, and I'm not happy with its performance, and I need to improve its performance. What can we do? And you start the entire investigatory process of what have you done? What did you achieve? Did you actually test? Or are you just feeling that what you're telling me is you'd like to have something better, but you don't know why? So we have a design team here that will work very closely with your folks to help design a better process, a more robust process. If we're talking to the general industry as we are right now, I think we can all agree that the quality and consistency of the materials that we are receiving in today are dramatically different than they were 5 years ago, 8 years ago, 10 years ago. Supply chain, worse. And worse being not as consistent as they were. Yes, we all have that grade A, and 4 of us will process grade A today. We will get results B. Next week, you're going to get B minus, B plus, possibly an A, maybe a C. And we're joking internally. The first thing most heat treaters do, because quite frankly, we're paranoid. The entire world's out to get us, and it's always the heat treater's fault. It's always our fault. It is. So the first thing we do when we enter a relationship is we say, Doug, hi, I'm Steve, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yes. Get that out of the way. Start out
right up front. Exactly.
Yeah.
And then we move forward from there. But that has been a serious challenge on the consistency of the materials coming to us.
So you guys test all incoming material?
All in, yes. And don't use the word all.
Yeah, right. No, I understand.
Crazy. But yes, we have incoming inspection, and we work closely with our customers. As you get your material in, send it to us.
Yeah.
Before you start making a product, send us that we will process, validate for you, so that you know that what you've got will respond the way you thought it's supposed to respond.
Yeah.
And then we can move forward being more efficient with that.
We'll get back to Steve and Doug in just 1 minute. But first, a word from our sponsor, Furnaces North America 2022. Pack your bags. We're headed to Indianapolis. This October 3rd through 5th, gather at the Indiana Convention Center to learn about new equipment, emerging technologies, and changing trends that are hitting the heat treat industry. The Furnaces North America trade show is back in person, and you don't want to miss out on this rich networking opportunity. The expo begins on Tuesday, October 4th from 11:15 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. and ends the next day on Wednesday the 5th from 10:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. In the morning of each of these 2 days, join one of the 35 technical sessions. The categories of these sessions range from Quench and FNC to equipment and productivity to so much more. If you don't want to stay long, you can walk the show floor and attend the floor reception for free. You can do this plus the opening night welcome reception for $85 per person, and the price for all this plus the 35 technical sessions is just under $300. And if your main objective is networking, consider staying at the Marriott Hotel downtown Indianapolis, where many FNA attendees have already snapped up their rooms. Again, go to furnacesnorthamerica.com for more information and to register for this thrilling heat treat industry event. Now, back to the episode.
Right. Yeah, good. So you've hit on this before too, but I just want to see if there's anything else, any other comments you want to make on this, and that is the type of equipment that's necessary for doing the heat treating of these gun components. I know you mentioned salt, so you're doing salt bath, right?
Yep, we salt to salt, so it's salt, neutral hardening, salt hardening, and then mark quenching or os tempering, depending on the component. It's critical. There's a significant number of parts that respond extremely well to rack os tempering, rack mark quenching. Extremely well. So and we proudly say that our team here, they're spectacular. I get to talk about it, which is really pretty cool. Hey, I got these great people that do this great work, and they do. And it's so that their job is make me look good.
Yeah.
As you know, with your support staff, yes, don't even say it. I know it's a full-time job. It's never done. But
took the words out of my mouth.
Thank you. So salt is critical in this industry. Vacuum processing.
Why did you go vacuum, by the way? Because I remember
material selection.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's with stainlesses and the various materials that they're currently using, having high pressure quench vacuums, high pressure quench, you can, it allows for a significant amount of flexibility. We can fine tune a recipe or a cycle to achieve properties that the customer needs, where it makes it repeatable.
Yeah. And you've got what? How high pressure? What bar
10.
are we to?
We have
10 bar quench.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So you've got salt to salt. You've got high pressure gas quenching and coming off of a vacuum heat treat. Anything else?
And then we do plasma nitride, plasma.
That's right. You mentioned plasma nitride.
Plasma.
Right.
And same thing. There, folks I will say that we have the technology that we have utilized to optimize processing. Is ours the best for everything? Absolutely not. No question about it. And when it's not, we're going to say, hey, Billy, yes, Steve, I need you to call Doug. And I need you to tell Doug that Steve said to call him and ask the following 3 questions. And Doug's got the answer for you. And your equipment for his application is better than mine. It works better. So I think anyone in the heat treat world can recall the scars on our backs from the days that we thought that we could give you exactly what you need because we're going to try. And it's not the best answer.
Do you do much heat treating of gun components in straight atmosphere or air furnaces?
We joke. We don't have them.
You don't have them at all. Okay.
We don't do
and
any
induction.
Oil.
You do induction? No induction.
Not yet. Nope. So we have no oil quenching here whatsoever. We do the joke that we're here in Cleveland in the residential area, and we are a zero quantity generator of hazardous waste.
Nice. Very nice. I'm sure your neighbors appreciate that.
Oh, they absolutely do.
If they know, I don't think.
Oh, they do.
Do they?
So we know what we're really good at, and that's our world.
Yeah. A couple more questions for you on this. So is there anything else? I mean, we talked about the uniqueness of heat treating gun components because of the traceability and the serialization and all that stuff. Anything else technically unique about the heat treatment of any of these gun parts that kind of make them interesting or more of a challenge?
Yes, it is. It is not an industry. Let me always, have you met my wife?
Yeah, I don't believe that I have.
There's a comment she tells me all the time. Everything that goes through my mind doesn't have to come out my mouth.
Okay, yeah, that's very.
And
I've
met your wife, and she's told me the same thing. Yes, she's incredibly wise, way smarter than I am. In the heat treating of gun components, one of the an area that would be critical is it's not a bulk processing world. Not about running more and more and more parts at one time. You will not get optimum results. It's a sensitive process. We're heat treaters and we're very sensitive at what we do. But distortion is critical. The way the parts have been designed, you cannot effectively, in my humble opinion, put them into a 24, 36, 36, 48 basket and max load it. You will not get optimum results. It's just not going to happen. So there's a tremendous amount of racking.
That actually was my question. What time, not that you would know this number right off the top of your head or anything, but the percentage of time you spend racking, I assume, is higher with.
No, it's 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, 5 to 1. Yes. And if those of your listeners who understand salt processing, we can rack for 2 days and process for an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's just say it's manually intensive then. Right?
We have an incredible team of individuals here who they do things that if you watch, you just like, it's in some cases truly awe-inspiring because they learn, they create for us success. They help us learn new ways of processing. It's not, hey, you're going to do it the way Steve said, like critical process control, but they provide us the answers on making things better.
Yeah. Very, very good. Well, that's great. I've got 2 other quickie questions here for you, but I think we may have already,
Sure you do.
We may have already covered them. One was just if there's any common mistakes that I know you guys don't make mistakes, but
no, heat treaters right. In general, we do not make mistakes.
That's correct. But is there any common mistakes with the heat treatment of gun components? Because if you guys really are as you say, the people who are taking care of the PIAs, it's usually coming from people who have made a mistake.
Yes. It's when to say no. Heat treaters, we've talked, you and I have talked, and we've talked to our peers, brilliant people. And we tend to all lament this, usually the same thing. Something comes in and it's not quite right or correct. And we don't say, stop, Doug, you did not make this correctly. We can't do what you want us to do because of what you provided to us. Or next step would be folks who assume.
Yeah. Which we know what that's all about.
Yeah, not good. But the rest of it is process control. Once you develop, you lock the process. And when you do that, the only real big issue we run into anymore is consistency of material coming in.
The incoming. You've mentioned the incoming material specs being an issue, the consistency of the material coming in. I have heard that a lot of times the inconsistency of that material is coming in from overseas. Let's just put it that way, and not necessarily Europe. Okay.
Right. You've covered pretty much far overseas. Far overseas.
Let's just say far to the east overseas.
There we go.
Okay. So I guess my question is, is that still the source of it, or are you seeing less issues with that?
Because of what we run and because of the customers that we work with, historically, that hasn't been a big problem. Not in this market. Not in this market. Although there's high volume, it's not a tremendous amount of weight. Just because of the handling. It's more of the chemistries with supply chain. We're hearing it. Part of it is frustrating. That stop saying supply chain when your guy just didn't show up to do his job. But we have, as heat treaters, we will say we have to be very diligent in contract review. There's mentoring of our younger employees, our customers mentoring their younger employees who don't have the knowledge base yet to understand what they're actually working with. And it's not a disparaging comment. You learn from making mistakes. You absolutely learn, and that's experience. So we've seen a talent drain in the last 2 years, and that is exasperating the problem.
Yeah. Good. So you're doing heat treatment to gun components, and you're obviously not going to ask you company names because that wouldn't be the right thing to do. It would be fun to do, but it wouldn't be the right thing to do. But are you pulling in business, let's say, from pretty much nationwide, or are
Yes.
you okay? Yeah.
We don't get a significant business from overseas.
Yeah.
The transportation challenges.
Yeah. Right.
Unless it's part of a continuous supply chain where it's being manufactured, let's just say in England, and then England's going to ship it to the States to do X, Y, and Z, and it ends up being assembled in some state in this country.
Right.
But as far as countrywide, continent-wise, yeah, we're all over the country.
Do you think the normal guy, like myself, I'm going to classify myself as a normal guy in this case. I know you know better. So
I will, Your Honor,
work with me.
Treat him as a hostile witness.
Work with me on this one.
Okay.
So would the normal person be surprised at the number of gun component manufacturers in this country?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, because when I think of gun manufacturers, I'm thinking, okay, there are maybe, a half dozen to a dozen at most.
Try a different number.
Try a different number. Maybe add or multiply that. Yeah. See, I don't know.
You would. We've been very fortunate that we've attended and been at the SHOT Show.
What was it?
It's called the SHOT Show. SHOT. It's been held in Las Vegas for the last number of years, and you get a better perspective attending that. Now you have to be approved to attend it, and those who have understand where I'm going with this. There is the number of manufacturers in this country, and we're not talking about folks who I'm a family business. We are a family business. We have 45 to 48 people, but we're a small business. I'm talking about companies that have hundreds of employees that you've never heard of, that make components and guns and support that industry. It's a significant industry, and by and large, without getting into the politics of this, some of the nicest people we have ever met. Truly just generous, and I'm talking about even purchasing agents. Yep. For those of you who dealt with purchasing agents in industries that we will not discuss that have 4 wheels and an engine.
Right.
They're basically decent people who. It's fascinating. That's all I'm saying. It's fascinating.
Kind of rocks your world when a purchasing agent is a real person or a purchasing. Yes. It's like, oh, really? They have a heart. That's good. No, good for you. Well, listen, Steve, congratulations. It sounds like you guys are doing great work there. I know that you guys do more than guns, right? Oh, yeah. Care to share just briefly what else you do?
Those who know the company, when we say PIA stuff, if it's a problem, it's coming to us. Distortion sensitive. We have a significant market in power transmission, clutch plates, brake discs, big, round, flat things from 3-inch in diameter to 50 inches in diameter. That's our world. We deal in all of you name the market, power transmission, auto, air. We don't do much in the aerospace industry. It's just not something that my people and I want to deal with. Other than that area, medical, nuclear, Department of Defense, we do a significant amount of research and development where folks like you, hey, I have an idea. Can you help us? And we assist them on the metallurgical heat treat side on developing processes and outdoor power equipment. Just basically, if you don't have a problem, I've got 10 guys for you who are incredible at what they do. We just like having problems. And for those who, I'm telling you how we work. If I can solve your problem, if our team can solve your problem, are you going anywhere else?
Yeah, no, that's right. Exactly right. Nope, not going to do it.
And we like and try to have fun doing it.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Get the work done. Enjoy it if you can. So
absolutely.
That's good. Steve, listen, great. Really appreciate it. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you talking to us a little bit about guns and ammo. I guess mostly gun parts. And again, congratulations. Sounds like guys are doing well, and we appreciate your insights.
Pleasure. Absolute pleasure. Thanks, Doug.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode with Steve Kowalski. Heat Treat Radio is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Podbean, and the website www.heattreattoday.com/radio. If you'd like to get in contact with Steve, head over to www.khtheat.com or reach out to me and I can put you in touch. My email is bethany@heattreattoday.com. Also, we love input from our listeners. Email me at bethany@heattreattoday.com to share your new or interesting idea for the podcast. And if you're listening and would like to sponsor a future episode, let me know at the same email address. Which reminds me, we'd love to meet you either at Furnaces North America or at Heat Treat Today's fall event, the Heat Treat Boot Camp. At the show, a lot of our team will be at the booth with triple-dipped malted milk balls, and those in-person conversations are always great to get a better sense of the helpful products Heat Treat Today is releasing. But if we don't see you at the show, please join us in Pittsburgh on October 31st through November 2nd for Heat Treat Boot Camp, the basic training for heat treaters. Thomas Wingens and Doug Glenn will be there, but so will myself and other members of the team. So come by and say hi while you're there to attend the training. For each of these reasons, we're looking forward to seeing you this fall. Heat Treat Radio would like to thank Furnaces North America 2022 for sponsoring this episode. Learn more about this Heat Treat trade show at www.furnacesnorthamerica.com. This and every other episode of Heat Treat Radio is the sole property of Heat Treat Today and may not be reproduced in part or in whole without advance written permission from Heat Treat Today. And I'm Bethany Leon. Thank you for listening.